Welcome to Love and Life. I'm Dr. Karen Anderson Abril here with my co-host,
Pastor Elliott Anderson.
And Love and Life is your place to hear conversations grounded in psych research, psychotherapy,
and biblical truth
to help us thrive in love and life.
All right, Tim, it's just you and me today. Karen got called into some mom duty. And we had, surprised or not, Tim, we had actually talked about, Karen and I had, about what we were going to talk about today. So she wasn't going to spring something on me. I wasn't going to spring something on her.
You set me up.
Yeah, so it's coming off my sermon on Sunday. Karen was in town for Mother's Day with the kids, and I'm preaching a series called Meals with Jesus, looking at 7 of the meals of the recorded 10 in Luke. There's 14 to 20 if you count the festivals and all the banquets and stuff. It could be up to 50. But anyway, the context of these meals, what they look like, and I picked a bunch of different ones. And this is the first interaction from Luke 10 of Jesus meeting Mary and Martha, and it's the famous sister rivalry, sibling rivalry, where Martha's preparing and busy. And see, as a firstborn, you're already shaking your head. If the audience can see, you're already shaking your head like, of course, that's the right way. So Martha's taking care of business and cooking and prepping, and Mary's just the younger sister chilling at the feet of Jesus, taking it all in on the rabbi. Martha gets ticked off and she goes to Jesus and says, "Don't you care? Make her stop, Jesus," right? So it's a real fascinating narrative from a very godly woman. I have great respect and admiration for Martha. My wife is a Martha, so I understand responsibility and how hard she works. And just because I'm all liquid and flexible doesn't mean that you and Angie and my brother and all the other Marthas out there are not doing a wonderful, wonderful service to the Lord. So that's the basic scriptural setup.
Yeah.
And because my congregation gets psychology and scripture,
a healthy dose of both.
yeah, healthy dose. One of my ladies says it's free therapy every week.
Yeah,
that's great. If that's how it helps, that helps. But so I brought in Leon Festinger. I know you're super familiar with his name.
Super. Yeah.
He's actually he's like the 5th most cited psychologist in history. And yet he's kind of barely known. He's a social psychologist. He's a University of Iowa grad. So that give a little shout out to the Hawkeyes there, and then MIT and a bunch of other stuff, because those geniuses don't ever stop learning. They just keep getting degrees and activity. But he put together some really cool stuff in the 50s that I think is not only super relevant now, but in light of social media, maybe more relevant than it was even when he created it in the 50s through research and empirical evidence and et cetera. So I'll teach the basic essence of it, Tim, because I know I didn't give you more than 12 seconds to hear and respond to this, but there's 2 elements. First is the group dynamics theory. And so I started with that one and looked at throughout the Gospels, the different groups that Jesus was in, right? Judaism, and especially Judaism in the days of Jesus in the early church, very collective culture. It's not about the individual. It's not American,
Right. Yeah.
at all. Very much about the group. You didn't try to stand out. You always brought it back to people and community. It wasn't self-expression. It wasn't entrepreneurial.
Right.
And of course, one of our flaws we have in our Western American, and I'm proud to be a Western American, but our individualistic and independent spirit is we read the scriptures and then put it into our lens. And that's a faulty way to do it. So I've been trying to help our congregation and remind myself how much when Jesus was standing out against the group and against the crowd and against the Sabbath laws and against the traditions, it was a big deal.
It was
culturally.
countercultural. Yeah.
Yeah, not just theologically a big deal, but a huge cultural splash, if you will. And so Festinger talks about these group dynamics, and there's 3 C's of group dynamics that all of us, in his opinion, as a psychologist, brilliant psychologist, all of us are navigating these group dynamics all the time.
Do psychologists and pastors all have 3 main points? Is that
It's automatic.
Yeah,
It's
automatic.
absolutely. And alliteration. So they go together, Tim. Thank you for noticing. And you've heard your fair share of sermons in your day,
Yes.
church work and everything else you do. But no, these are his, not mine. So comparison, right? We're automatically comparing ourselves to others. And this one hits the feminine side harder than the masculine side. And then competition, which hits the masculine side more than the feminine. So more men struggle with competition than they do comparison, but they're rooted in the same thing. It's like 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And then the third one is probably more overpowering than the other 2. And that's what we all wrestle with socially: conformity. We want to belong. We want to be in a group. I'm a crazy extrovert. And as my daughter Paige said yesterday at dinner, annoyingly confident in all social situations. I said, "Hon, I don't know if to take that as a compliment or put down." She goes, "No, it's just so freaking annoying," she said, "because you just always go anywhere and just assume you're going to be good." And I go, "Well,
Yeah.
that's confidence in the Lord more than anything. But yes, I'm socially quite comfortable. It doesn't mean I'm not nervous. Doesn't mean I'm not anxious, or I really don't get anxious much. Doesn't mean I'm not anticipating every single scenario with great joy and pleasure. But she's got a brand new job coming. So that was how the relevant conversation. But my point on the conformity is whether we want to be independent, individual, like most Western Americans, or my competitive spirit, or we really want to fit in the crowd and belong, it's just a standard subconscious approach to life that we want to conform to whatever the norms are of that particular group. And some of us, as you know, Tim, conform one way to one family, and then at work, we're conforming another way. And that can be dangerous. We want to be authentic and aligned in every single atmosphere and environment as much as we can. So the Tim May at church is the Tim May at home, is the Tim May on the podcast, is Tim May with his brothers, right?
Yeah, having done stuff in music, one of the biggest things was being the same person on and off stage.
Amen to that.
Or the same person in
type
every
thing.
room. Yeah.
And of course, when you're on stage, you might be, if you're the main communicator, you might be talking a different way than you're going to after the show, sitting down and having a beer or something. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That element is very, very important. So that's the first element. And Jesus didn't always teach about conformity to him, not to the social world around, right? And that's why some of those verses when Jesus says, you might have to hate mother and father to be my disciple. You might have to drop everything to be conformed to me. So Festinger would say, he's been dead a long time now, but I believe from researching him, Festinger would say, you're going to conform to something. So choose what you're conforming to and why. And if we're conforming to, let's say, an abusive spouse or a really oppressive boss, and if you're conforming to something like that too long, you'll start to lose yourself, right? You'll start to become inauthentic and grieve and can become depressed and anxious, etc. And Martha became dysregulated, essentially. I was teaching about dysregulation Sunday morning, and Martha became dysregulated and lost her emotional control for a moment and basically got in the face of Jesus, like, do something, right? Make my sister do this. And she was competitive and comparative and frustrated. And really in light of scenarios where someone's got a good work ethic and someone doesn't, all of us can understand when it's frustrating, right? And so it's a different element there. So that's the first part, but that's not the main part I wanted to talk about today. Though you know that I err on the side of overly competitive about even silly things. It's funny when, like, I'm going to get a Culver's custard, Tim, and I'm pulling into our South Elgin lot there. If any other car turns in that general direction, I start to get irritated. There's a Walgreens. There's lots of other places they could go, but I'm like, get out of my line.
Yeah.
I got a custard coming. And so it's very weird, but I usually am out loud about it so it doesn't get in my head. But the part I want to talk about was not his group dynamics theory and those 3 C's, although they are important, but what he calls upward and downward comparison. And this is fun stuff I think you're going to really like. So basically in all scenarios, based on our group dynamics and our desire to conform, compete, or compare, we're either going to do an upward comparison and say, ooh, I'm actually a little ahead of them. I'm a little smarter, a little stronger, a little better looking, a little more contained, whatever the scenario is. So we're going to view it in a favorable manner. And that upward comparison can also be, you know, if I look at Dr. Curry, our psychologist at Judson, who's been there 20 more years than me or 10 more years than me, and go, man, he's a great teacher. He did an awesome job, by the way, at our commencement, just did a fantastic commencement. And I was so inspired by it because I love doing those kind of things as well. I'm like, ooh, I like how he did that. So I wasn't comparing myself to him negatively. I was doing it positively and go, oh, I love that idea. That motivates me. So the upward comparison can be both, oh, that inspires me and motivates me to do a better workout, to do a similar commencement address sometime. Or it can be, oh, I got some work to do, but I'm motivated. I got some work to do. Here's how I'm going to, I see a Tai Chi exercise on social media or something, like, oh, I want to incorporate that one. That guy's doing a balance thing. I don't think I could do. I'm going to have to work at it.
Yeah.
That's the positive side of the upward. The negative can be self-condemnation. I'll never be that good. I'll never be that smart. I'll never be able to speak in public the same way Dr. Curry did. I'll never be able to.
This is turning into a therapy session for me, Elliott.
All right. Well, as a good firstborn Martha, I would hope you would jump right in. And so it's recognizing, right? my heart, Karen's heart on these things, even if she gets a little more dysregulated than I do on occasion. Just a little shout out to her. But my heart on things is to recognize and understand them, accept them, and then integrate them into your life in a way that's beneficial for all mankind in a collective culture. So I'm not trying to call you out, brother, but I thought you might self-call out here a little bit as I talked about it. So it's, if we recognize the upward comparison and we feel a little jealousy or feel a little envy, to counter it pretty quickly. Not to beat ourselves up about it, but to go, oh, I'm a little bit jealous of my brother getting to do this, or this professor getting to do this, or this tech man, or whatever the scenario would be. And I'm feeling a little resentful. I'm feeling a little jealous, but I'm going to turn that into positivity, into motivation. Well, if he's got something I don't, or he's doing something I don't, can I do that? What do I have to do next steps to get there? And in a relational way, who do I need to connect with to help better my scenario and grow myself in a positive manner? So we're all going to get hit with that envy, jealous thing once in a while. It's recognizing quickly it's likely an upward comparison or competition, right? I'm a really good racquetball player. It's my only sport I really go after still. But I'm not afraid to lose. I'm not afraid to play better people. And I'm not afraid to get drilled. If I get drilled, I get drilled. I don't get jealous anymore. I used to get so insanely competitive. I would lose a basketball game to Warren and go in our house and lift our sink out of the wall. I mean, it's true stories. I would literally smash things and break things. And Warren was like 6'2" and like age 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of I was going to beat him in our little backyard, it was literally, I was 0 for 400 before I finally beat him. And in typical Warren way, Tim, as soon as I could beat him, he quit playing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
he's like, well, that's over. I got that dominance done. So now you can just go play by yourself. But it did motivate me. I'm going to do whatever it takes to beat him. I'm going to get better, right? And I had that fire for the athletics he didn't necessarily have for athletics. He had it for music. He had it for writing, things like that. And so it's not getting mad at ourselves for our reaction and response. If we feel we're regulated, if we feel like we're not being bitter, we're not being resentful, and it can actually turn into motivation, it can actually be a pretty strong benefit to socially compare and socially compete. Sometimes I'm competing with people that don't know they're competing with me because they're not in their head. It's just, I use it to make myself better, right? I hear a good drummer and I'm like, ooh, man, that's a heck of a lick. I can't play that one necessarily, but it makes me want to go practice, right? Depending on the speed or whatever I'm talking about. I'm sure as a musician, you know the same feeling.
Yeah. Well, my question was, if comparison is a thief of joy, you're saying a healthy comparison is motivation?
Motivation for life.
Okay.
You just quoted Teddy Roosevelt, by the way.
Okay.
I don't think you knew that.
I didn't.
Holy cow, are you looking over my notes for my sermons?
Is that in there?
Yeah, it was in my sermon, but I took it out, but I still quoted it. I didn't have because Mark Twain and Teddy Roosevelt kind of had the same quote about that comparison will rob you of peace, rob you of joy. Two guys who were quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Had a lot of stuff. So downward comparison. So sometimes in a downward comparison, there's just a certain reality that you're not going to be able to motivate yourself to that level, right? Or hard work isn't going to necessarily get you to, I got to play basketball with Michael Jordan that one time in 1987, a pickup league thing through his camps, and my coach was working there and I got to go down and play with him. Then I got picked on his team, Tim.
You did?
And literally, yeah. And I literally was his point guard for 9 straight games. It was incredible.
Are you serious?
We lost. Yeah, I'm absolutely serious. I got pictures up and everything. We lost the first game, and you would have thought we lost the finals of the NBA. He railed us as a group. I mean, he just chewed us up.
Oh my God.
And as you can probably imagine, those professional athletes, many of them can swear like sailors, and he was a very good swearer. So, and we didn't lose again. We won 8 straight, and there's all kinds of fun stories in there. And I it's not the point of it right now, but I'll tell you some other time. But some funny things because he was calling me out about certain stuff. Loved my hustle and everything, but I took a charge
in the 90s in that era.
I took a charge from Everett Stevens. I think it's Stevens, who played for Purdue or U of I can't remember. Either one. He played in Big Ten. He was going to get drafted, and he just ran me over. But that's the kind of player I was. I'm 5'8", he's 6'8". He was coming down. I just stopped and took a absolute freight train through my body. And Michael came over and palmed my head. That's how big his hands were. And kind of picked me up, gave me a huge swat on the butt that hurt. But way to go, little man, but don't ever do that again. He's like, that guy's going to make millions of dollars playing basketball. You could have injured him and you could have been dead.
Yeah.
And then he goes, get out. And I sat out the rest of the time because he knew I was probably looking at him with like, headlights. But my point about that, I'm playing with Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time,
Yes.
or one of them if you're a LeBron fan.
No. The greatest.
Thank you. And I'm playing with like 9 other future NBA players, a bunch of D1 guys from Indiana, Illinois, Purdue. I wasn't at that level.
Right.
I was a really good small college NAIA player. I had confidence to be out there and play, but in a downward comparison, I wasn't like, oh, because I got to do this, I'm now going to get in the NBA. And I could have condemned myself or sunk into myself and played so poorly that Michael would have moved me off the court. Trust me, I watched what happened with other players, and we were rotating in and out, everybody except him. He was playing every second.
Yeah.
But the rest of us college guys were rotating in and out. But I was actually very peaceful about it and said, okay, there's a massive difference in level, but I know what I can do and do well, pass and dribble and control tempo and things. That was my specialty anyway. And I did it well enough that it was really helping. I did try to throw one crazy alley-oop to him that went off the very top of the backboard, and he was laughing and he said all kinds of things I can't repeat. And then he's like, I can jump, blah, 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 but I can't jump like that. And it was pretty funny. But he had caught a couple of them that were so astronomically incredible and dunked them. It was pretty incredible. But it's being grateful. I was just grateful at the level I could play.
Yeah.
Not saying, well, geez, I'm not an NBA player. I'm not even a Division I player. I might as well just sit down. I don't belong here. Rather, I'm just grateful for this amazing opportunity. One of my favorite basketball memories of all time. It meant nothing in my career. It meant nothing in, it wasn't press covered, nothing other than this really cool opportunity. But it did raise my game for the rest of my junior and senior year. That was my sophomore year. I was already a good player, MVP, all district already as a sophomore captain. But I was significantly a better leader in a downward comparison to what I saw Michael do to our group in a pickup game with 200 campers watching instead of 20,000 at United Center and a championship, right? But every second to him mattered so much, and to win and to be the best, it elevated my leadership, even though it was a downward comparison.
Yeah.
So the problem about downward comparison, if it's now you're better than them, so that was a downward comparison where Michael and the pro guys were way better than me. Could I stay at least grounded enough to enjoy it and contribute in some fashion? But let's say then I go and play with a bunch of middle schoolers. Even though some of them have been taller than me, they're obviously not anywhere near my skill level at that point. Am I going to judge them, scorn them, condemn them, ridicule them, right? So a downward comparison where we're above the people can get into judgment and can get into condemnation and rejection of social conformity, competition, and comparison, which is very demeaning and unhealthy. So we're all the time, Tim, we're in an upward or a downward or neutral one all the time. It's just trying to integrate this into our soul.
Giving a practical example, because I'm not going to be playing any middle schoolers anytime soon, and I know Karen will appreciate something practical. But I think for me, it's always ironic because we all have our own issues, and you know plenty of mine because we've talked about them. But even so, as a parent, as a husband, there's been a lot of times where I'll see either someone else's husband or someone else being a dad or a couple, and I can get stuck and like, oh, like at least I'm better than them.
Yeah. Stuck on either side, stuck in pride or stuck in wallowing.
Ironic because I've had my own issues and own stuff to work through. But yeah, I can get stuck there or have. I can also do the self-condemning thing. That's also something. But again, I can get into, if that's the bar, if I see someone that I perceive that I'm doing a better job, like if that's the bar, like I want to be doing way better. And so, when I actually stop and pause and realize what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, this is gross. Like this doesn't feel right or helpful. And I think part of what you were talking about at the very beginning too, about recognizing those things and quickly kind of internalizing them, and whether it's using them to motivate you or whatever, it's just not getting stuck as long, and that takes practice. And so
Yeah.
I think there's lots of times now where it's like, now when those thoughts or things pop in my head, instead of it taking me 6 months to be like, I should view this differently, I can do it maybe in a day or an hour or 30 minutes, depending on what it is.
Yeah, the understanding, if we can give ourselves the grace that we're all going to wrestle with the comparison, conformity, and competition in some way or form. Some of us higher in one area than the other. That in itself should help ground us a little bit to recognize. And then in the message, and here now I'm sharing one of our evidences of how we're doing with the three C's is based on our regulation. Are we staying grounded, generally ourself, authentic? If you're a talker, you're staying talkative. If you're quiet, you're staying quiet. Or if we're dysregulated and we get into hyper arousal or hypo-arousal, either crazy mad or anxious like Martha did. I'm sure after she was done trying to rebuke Jesus, she realized, oh, my bad. Just like when Peter tried to denounce Christ as well, and you're not going to Jerusalem. And what did Jesus say? Get behind me, Satan. Right? So once we get dysregulated, that should be our trigger to catch and go, okay, why am I shutting down here? Or why am I ramping up? I'm a ramp up person, right?
Yep.
Most of my introverted firstborn friends shut down. Yeah. I wasn't calling you out, but I did know you. Right. And so to go, okay, as soon as we see that or hear that or feel that, do a quick evaluation. Why? Why am I wanting to shut down right now? Why am I just wanting to pull away or check out? Or for me, why am I wanting to provoke or antagonize someone right now? Or I go through that. And we had a group dynamics element this weekend, Tim, which fit. Again, it's so amazing how God gives you illustrations in your own life in the midst of a sermon prep. So Paige and Sarah graduated Saturday. So we had double masters graduations at our house, which was really fun. And we had a ton of people over. And so it was like 20 people in the house. And Amy, Warren's daughter, who's also introverted and firstborn, was like, isn't this like kind of a drag that you show up after 2 graduations and your house is full? I'm like, heck no, this is awesome. This actually recharges me. She's like, oh yeah, that's right. I got to remember that our different styles. It didn't mean I wasn't tired that night. But all of a sudden in the middle of this group dynamic, Tim, for no premeditated reason I can think of, I wasn't consciously aware of it. Academics is a big deal in our family, right? There's a lot of really, really smart people. And all of a sudden, because Paige never had a B her entire career, all the way through master's, all of a sudden, I just wanted to start provoking. And so I went to all the really smart people, my brother, my sister, Amy's husband, Doug. I'm like, okay, GPA, we're doing GPA call out. We're ranking the whole family. Now, people could be like, oh, Elliott, you're trying to raise yourself up. I'm not even in the stratosphere of those guys.
Yeah.
I had a nice 3.6 in seminary or something, but I was like a 2.99 in undergrad. So not even in the equation as these guys. And most of them were begrudgingly complying with me and walking through it. But a majority of them were like, why are we doing this? Why can't we just celebrate Sarah? And Sarah got all A's in her master's too, not a single B for her in her master's.
Yeah.
And she had an undergrad that was more like mine. So that's a really cool accomplishment for her. And afterwards, I'm like, why did I want to do that? What? And there's that competition thing for me. It's like in a group scenario, and it wasn't even my competition. It wasn't even I had no chance of winning that. I was proud of Paige, but I didn't even know if Paige was going to come out on top, even though I knew her record. So I didn't get dysregulated, but after about 7 minutes of talking to the main academic achievers in the house, I just stopped. I'm like, no one really wants to carry this on but me anyway. And this is a perfect example of being alert about, I'm going to make it a downward comparison if I keep it up, because the other people didn't want to compare and they didn't want to put a chart up or have anybody have to defend their GPA.
I know we've talked about it before, but is that also just part of the nature of when we get in those family situations that we just kind of default to
family systemics? Yeah. As the middle child, provoker.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily looking for a fight. I just wanted a good spirited debate. And people like, I got a 97.9 in advanced calculus or something.
That default, like you wouldn't be at a faculty meeting and be like, all right, everybody.
No. Most time I'm trying not to fall asleep in those meetings at the faculty meetings, because I don't even want to conform. I'm not competitive. I don't want to compare. I love the guys and the gals, but I do not enjoy faculty meetings. That's interesting. That's another whole discussion in some other time.
Yeah. Not to sidebar, but I think also, so for me, I grew up around, I had 3 younger brothers. So even though I was the oldest, there was all that competitive energy. And then grew up with, dad, other extended family, very competitive and, drive and stuff like that. And I don't know what it is or what, my own damage, whatever, growing up or my own history, but there was so much of that. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to perform or compete at a level that these people are at. And so I never even went there. And so that on that male, female, or that
Yeah.
masculine, feminine energy like spectrum, like I definitely lean more towards the comparing versus
hmm
competing. And so how
Most
did
introverts do.
yeah, okay. So
So
yeah,
the
how does
introversion extroversion scale will impact male, female, normal response to comparison or competition.
so even more than again, if someone's listening, even more than birth order or family
Yeah.
dynamics,
And
it's
if we're
more the extroverted versus introverted
extroversion,
piece?
introversion is one of the primary
Okay.
forms. Birth order is significant. You just explained a upward comparison that didn't feel motivational. It felt defeating. So you removed yourself out of it, which is a healthy way to do it, honestly, and say, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't need it. I'm going to go over to this side a little bit. And it's recognition as we're analyzing systemically, but
Well,
also
but then the
saying,
problem is
yeah, go
I
ahead
would compare and say,
and go downward.
yeah, go downwards.
Yeah, I was going to say, so then if we move into the downward, then we got to make sure we stay motivated and hopeful. And also in that systemic of birth order, what I told Warren all the time to help him see it differently is that Karen and I were judging everything from parents and him, where Warren with my parents, you with your parents first, but the younger siblings are always measuring against the older sibling.
Yeah.
And some older siblings can check out and leave or whatever, and then birth order shifts. So there's many, many factors. Trauma is a factor, of course, to this. Abuse, right? There's so many other factors in the comparison process. But where I moved towards the end of the message about what Jesus says to compare about is simply our mindset in Christ and Him, and then our comparison or self-evaluation of our own walk in Christ, not based on anybody else on the earth, but based on Him. Right? As Paul said, emulate me because I emulate Christ, to be as Christ-like as we can, which automatically means, you said it right at the beginning, means we're not going to be conforming to the world or sometimes to oppressive bosses or other scenarios. And we might be countercultural and we might not receive favorable responses to people. We can still be socially gracious and kind and be authentically ourselves, but it's going to be difficult. And then the social media piece, it's like an obsessive on steroids and overdrive, constant comparative downward
Yeah.
spiral.
Yeah.
And you can be in a great mood and go on for 10 minutes and not be doom scrolling, be looking at good things and
Yeah.
still be devastatingly anxious, depressed, or self-defeated by the time you're done. And I know Karen was going to cite some research about it. Used to be like 10 to 12 minutes that you can scroll without impacting your neurology right away. And they're saying that's no longer true. It's like instantaneous because we've done it so much. Our brain just jumps ahead and say, we're not going to mess around with
Right,
now the
right.
preparatory.
Let's
We're
go
just going to go
straight
ahead
to
and be
the
depressed. Let's just be anxious, compare, condemn, judge, pride. And it's just more and more dangerous. And I do scroll from time to time as well. So I'm not saying I never scroll, but man, am I consciously careful and evaluating myself really, really quickly. How am I feeling? How are my emotions? Am I still in my drive? I'm still in my normal spirit, or all of a sudden I shifted? And I'm not a shut down person on comparison very often, but if I am, then I know, wow, something's not healthy here.
Yeah, as we land the plane, like what are as Karen would say, what are the brass
Yeah.
like what is the practical steps if oh man, like whether, just a recognition, like, oh, I do this all the time. And like what is
Yeah.
what is step
Awareness.
one? Yeah.
Awareness and recognition is the key to beginning your maturity or your growth. And so if any of our listeners wrestle pretty badly with comparison, especially downward comparison, where even if no one else is aware they're comparing, they are constantly judging themselves or others, or getting self-defeated, giving up, shutting down, or like me, antagonistic and fighting or something, then we're saying, okay, that's not healthy for me. It's not socially healthy. It's not going to build community. It's not going to be Christ-like. So I'm going to look at those 3 C's: comparison, competition, conformity, and see if any of those are out of balance or if I'm leaning one way or the other. How can I, if like from your example, you're more on the comparative side, how can I make sure that comparison is benefiting me, my family, the Lord, others? Use it as motivation and encouragement rather than using it defeat. I think another brass tacks is to know what kind of spirit and mood you're in, and can you afford right now to scroll? Can you get on social media right now without it deploying all kinds of things you don't want deployed. And again, the research is getting stronger and stronger about 2 hours before you go to bed, get off. Not just 20 minutes, not an hour, 2 hours. And please don't look at your phone and scroll until a half hour or longer after you get up. And part of my crisis work at Judson, I normally have to check it first thing in the morning to make sure. And then, man, I do my best to not touch it again for about 45 minutes till I play a word game.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you don't eat well for a long time and then you start eating well, and it's like, oh, this feels way different.
It's a big difference, yeah.
And then then if you have if you binge or something over the holidays, you're like, oh, this feels terrible. I completely forgot how.
Yeah,
So you don't even realize.
I've been eating way better in this year, as I've told you. I still have my sweet tooth, so I still had some snacks here and there, but way better. But at the big festival in our house for our celebration, this is so funny. It's a competitive piece again. So Angie had all kinds of awesome desserts. Olivia made some puppy chow.
Like, I'm going to eat them all.
Well, I wasn't. I just had some ice cream and a little bit of brownie, but then I saw Warren had taken puppy chow and put it on top of his ice cream brownies. I instantly got up and did the same. And I even said it. I'm like, oh, that's taken up a notch. I got to go join you.
Yeah.
So there's that whole social competitive thing. But to your point, by 8 o'clock, I felt terrible.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat that much. It was maybe a scoop and a half of brownie and like a handful of the puppy chow. That was it. And in my past, I could have done 3 bowls of that.
Right.
So it is fascinating to quickly evaluate and go, okay, it happened. I'm going to give myself some grace. It was a big fun celebration of my daughters here, but let's get back to my good eating tomorrow morning.
Yeah, the whole point is that it can feel so normal to be stuck in that thing. You don't even realize how much it's impacting you or destroying your, mental, emotional health.
Yeah. Recognize, accept, change. It's back to the RAC acronym. And hopefully new language. Hopefully it's part of what our show does for folks. Just give people different language and systems to think about and process through. And if you want to look up Leon Festinger, he's a funny looking dude in the 1950s. So that'd be a nice funny one too. And read about some of the stuff he did.
Okay.
No offense to any of his family if they're listening to the show. I didn't mean to insult him. He's just got that funny 50s researcher look.
Yes.
Like I am wickedly smart and who cares what my hair looks like.
Anything else? You pray us
No,
out?
other than that, I'll pray for us. Thank you, Lord, for building in us a sense of relationship and community. And so we do have natural group dynamics and social comparison in our DNA. And that in itself, of course, is not wrong or sinful. It's not even dangerous, Lord, unless we are constantly comparing or competing or conforming in a way that is inauthentic, that is sinful, that is not true to self and not true to others, and manipulating or people-pleasing so strongly, Lord, that we lose a sense of self. And your word says that we can't get stuck pleasing man. We can only be stuck pleasing you and conforming to you. So pray for any of our listeners as they've listened to how Tim and I have danced through this in our own families or work environment. Pray, Lord, that there'll be grace and guidance, acceptance, recognition, evaluation, and then change. If there's changes that need to be made, that we would create that systemic and the neurological habits that can truly alter how we see ourselves and how we see others and how we grow. And Lord, all of us got to be careful about social media. It can be a tool of great encouragement. It can also be a devastating, toxic, negative influence, downward comparative spiral in our life, Lord. So give us wisdom there as well. We thank you for this time together. Pray for Karen and the family. Amen.
Love and Life with Dr. Karen and Pastor Elliott is produced by Tim May and executive producer, Dr. Karen Anders-Nabel. For more information about Love and Life, please go to loveandlifemedia.com.